I just added the Canon EOS600 35mm film camera to my collection of cameras. I picked this up for a tenner, body only, and a fiver for the lens. That's 15 quid for a 35mm film camera, an absolute steal and a bargain price. But was it worth it? Was it any good? And was it fun to shoot with? I'm going to show you in this video and talk about some of the pros and cons that I found with using this camera. The lens that I picked up with this camera is a 35 to 70mm lens. It's f3.5 to 5.6 depending on the focal length. I picked the lens up for a fiver from West Yorkshire Cameras in their junk sale where all money raised goes to charity, so that was an absolute bargain and doing a great thing for charity too. The camera body itself I picked up on eBay for a tenner, so that's how I got this setup for 15 quid. I loaded the camera up with some Kodak Colour Plus 200. After loading the film, make sure you set the ISO by holding down two buttons on the back and winding the dial to select the correct ISO for the film stock that you're using. With the camera loaded and ready to go, it was time for me to hit the streets of York and see how we got on. So after my first trip out with the camera, I only managed to take a handful of photos, the ones that I've just shown you, but there's plenty more to come, so keep watching. Now, on that trip, I only took with me the 35 to 75mm lens. I found the autofocusing to be quite sluggish and extremely noisy. Unfortunately, the batteries died, so I can't demonstrate this in this video, but you'll just have to trust me on that one. So I'd got a handful of photos with this lens, but as I'd only paid a fiver for it, I kind of didn't want to take any more than that, just to be sure that the lens worked and I could go back to using it in the future after I checked it worked on my first roll of film. So for the next few photos, I switched lenses. I switched to the Canon Nifty 50 1.8 aperture lens. We all know this one, it's a workhorse, it's the must-have in your collection if you own a Canon camera. With this lens, I decided I could hit the streets and I wanted to test it out in low light performance. So I headed out with the Nifty 50 loaded. Much preferred this setup, it's a much smaller lens, definitely easier to carry about, and we'll probably stick to using this in the future. And I took just this handful of photos late at night, kind of focusing on neon signs, a bit of street photography. Check these out, I was really happy with the way that these 5 nighttime photos turned out. So to finish off the roll, I decided to head back out in the daytime and stick with the Canon Nifty 50. I love shooting with this lens on any camera. Let's take a look at those photos. final thoughts on using this camera. Was it worth it? 15 quid? Hell yes. Will I use it again? Well, I must have left it switched on. I'll have to get a new battery for it if I do. Hopefully it's not died and it is just a battery. Kind of got forgetful with this switch on the side, so I probably left it on a few times. I'm not sure what the battery life is supposed to be like on these things, so I will definitely have to look out for that in the future. I found myself mostly shooting in aperture priority. I would do that because I found just the dial on the top. I found having to hold multiple buttons down and use the only one selector wheel to change the aperture and shutter speed a little time consuming, and it wasn't a style of camera operation that I was personally used to. That being said, the photos that I shot, I couldn't really tell which ones I'd shot in aperture priority or manual, so it was a good combination of using both. The camera is the bulkiest and heaviest camera that I own. It's quite a tank. It's a heavy thing to carry around with you, but it's fun. The auto-focusing does work. It's not fast and rapid like digital cameras are these days. I guess that's what I'm used to with autofocus, because it's the first SLR style camera for shooting film that I've owned with autofocus, and because of the year of release and it being the camera that really introduced the EOS lenses, I guess that was to be expected, but it did work in most cases. So I think if you're going to buy this EOS600 or a camera similar in the EOS range, it works great as a kind of entry-level film camera, auto-focusing. I'd use it on either the program or aperture priority mode, more of a point and shoot than a serious manual camera. That's only me personally. I wonder if I'd spent more time shooting with this, maybe after another roll of film, I'd be a lot more used to the way the camera switches between the shutter speed and the aperture, using the dial and the buttons to flick between the two. So probably get a bit faster with it in time, but yeah, I'm pleased I bought it, and if you see one going for just as cheap as what I got this one for, have a go with it. It's lots of fun. It's a decent camera. Will I be shooting with it again? Yeah, possibly in the future, but in the next couple of videos I've got some more film cameras to show you and to go through some more photos. I've got a video coming up shortly where I took my Canon AE1 program loaded with Kodak Ultramax 400 to Whitby for the weekend. Following that one, I've got another video featuring the Olympus OM10. I took this camera to Gdansk in Poland and I shot through 2 rolls of Kodak Ultramax 400 with this one, so stay tuned for that one. If you're interested, don't forget, like this video, drop me a comment, let me know your thoughts, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.